welcome back to another episode of Psychonaut Sessions, your home for all things psycho. Today I'm revisiting Black Lamb. Black Lamb is a comic I covered about half a year to a year ago. I'll link that in the description. Done by Timothy Truman. Covered issue 1, and I'd like to cover issues 2 and 3 today for my series of October Halloween videos. Alright, let's dive into it. So, Black Lamb came out under the Helix imprint. Helix was a kind of a subsidiary or sister or offshoot imprint of DC Comics to promote books that weren't in any kind of superhero continuity, that had more mature themes. They did this with Vertigo, had to great success. Vertigo specifically was focused on the supernatural, the occult, things like that. Helix was more focused on science fiction themes. None of it in continuity with anything else, just giving different artists and writers a platform to create some new concepts. Not sure if it was creator owned or not. It's something that'd be interesting to look into. If anybody knows, please let me know. But yeah, really interesting set of concepts. So out of Helix, the only book to really survive was Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis and Derek Robertson, which is a great fucking book. I think Helix folded about a year or so into its run of mostly miniseries that it had, and then Transmetropolitan shifted over to Vertigo and finished off there with very successful series there. This was a 6-issue limited series. I guess it was automatically from the get-go planned as that, and gave Timothy Truman the platform to just kind of create something that he wanted. Still very supernatural themed oriented. This is about a vampire guy, vampire kind of bounty hunter, guardian type character, in a science fiction esque setting. Timothy Truman is excellent. He's one of my favorite artists. He came from the same class as like Rick Veitch and Steve Bissette, more of my favorites in the early years of the Joe Kubert school of cartoon and comic book art. Just like all the guys that came out of that class, they all seem to hit and the right style of art and themes with their work that just is everything that I love about storytelling in comics. They never ever hit wrong with me. So this is actually, pretty recent for him in the sense of he's still always been making comics, but he was already well known for a lot of stuff like in the 80s and like Scout, and he did a lot of work with the Grateful Dead, doing covers and whatnot. And this book is basically, again, set in a supernatural future of sorts, but it is science fiction-y. It's like a dystopian style future. So everybody's got like weird eyewear and stuff like that, and definitely it's got tech and stuff, but very heavy like monster themes. So the whole shtick of this particular world that Timothy Truman has set up is that it is a strong, dark dystopia with this underworld of monsters that live beneath the city. And Black Lamb is not really a vigilante, but he works for like the Council of Monsters to protect and reinforce the laws of the. He's like a one-man police force basically for them. So not only for monster kind themselves, but also to protect them from humans. So this guy was targeting monsters, and then they're putting him on trial. So very interesting, really well done. It's colored by Sam Parsons, who is just masterful. The first issue is basically just kind of setting up the main elements that I discussed. Nothing, no major overarching storyline that gets launched or anything. It's basically like, here's our guy. So it was almost like if I had to make one comic of that concept and it was standalone, this is pretty much what that is. It tells you everything you need to know. So really good example actually for if anybody just wants to make a comic to set up a series, but also not set up all these things that you're going to have payoff, later on. I sometimes do that. Just a really great way to just like small, simple, concise story, puts in all the elements that you want to have. Like if you could only make one comic of your concept, but you still make room for a wider world to explore. Masterful example. Black Lamb number one. I want to get that out of the way. So I want to tackle Black Lamb number two, number three. These are both basically the same, the part one and part two of a story that essentially sets up the origin a little bit of the Black Lamb character and kind of finding out a little bit more about him. This cover I absolutely love. This one's okay, but this cover kicks ass. Timothy Truman does a lot of like Western style art. He does a lot of nonfiction works, of different characters from like the Old West. He does a lot of thematic books regarding Native Americans. Scout is another series of his. I absolutely recommend people to check out. Another kind of like dystopian future, but starring a Native American. But he just has those like the American Southwest sensibilities into his design work that just fucking it just does something to me. It's amazing. And what's great about this series is that he kind of mixes that in with science fiction and horror at the same time. Just a really great kind of hodgepodge of genres here, all squeezed into one. But really, what we get here is a setup of the first issue really laid this out well, where there's glimpses of the past and then we're pulled into the future. So he's already got this rhythm he's setting up in the book, where that you're going to constantly get like interlaced storylines going on in the past with whatever is going on in the future. And it's important because this character is like practically immortal. We don't know how long he's lived, but he's lived a very long time, so he's got a really deep past. And the particular character in this book, he's friends with a werewolf. And so these werewolves in this particular story, I love all the detail that he builds into his world. Very just like that. It's almost like anime. The kind of world that he builds out, like a dystopian science fiction kind of like anime city, is maybe where he's getting some of his influences. But with this like hard gothic feel at the same time. What's really cool is that Timothy Truman, it isn't really giving us a ton of like huge establishing shots, like here's a giant splash page of the big city, but you always feel like the characters are in that space. So it's very interesting, how skilled he is at that. But anyway, back to the story. The werewolf, this is that werewolf character that's his friend. These are actually his grandsons, so he lives a long time too. It's not really exactly clear how long they live, but these monsters are all, I wouldn't say infected necessarily, but they have what they call is like the night strain. It is some kind of genetics or something within the blood or something that makes them these kind of like night breed monstrous kind of, and there's different like races and stuff, And right here, what we're witnessing is this guy is actually that werewolf that we saw in the beginning, and this is another breed of werewolves, and they've basically been at war. What's happening is this guy that was friends with Black Lamb, they're like watching the TV, and the news is basically saying, "Hey, there are children, babies that are going missing," and they're blaming that like it's all kind of coming down on this group of werewolves. And so this other group comes in and tries to take them all out, is trying to kill them off. Man, a lot of these comics have had these Sam Goody ads, and it makes me want to go like listen to all this music I used to listen to in the '90s. This is like right in the prime of like my high school, graduating high school, going '96, right? Yeah, is when this came out. So I was graduating high school and going to college. That's how old I am. So this guy, his name's Lycion. He's the head of these evil werewolves, and he's basically got some kind of plan cooking. He's trying to take out this other group of werewolves, and obviously he's the culprit of these like little babies disappearing and trying to pin it on this other group of werewolves and taking them out. So the police don't really are getting confused and don't know who to go to. They're just all these dead bodies are showing up. We do get glimpses of this like police officer who's investigating all these crimes, who's going to come into play later in the story. And here we get, this is, set up beneath the city is where all these monsters live. And this guy is like the head judge or leader. I don't really know his role, lawmaker or whatever. But he's obviously the one who's been tasking Black Lamb to go out and enforce certain laws. He's definitely like, we need to fix this here, because we can't have monsters hunting down human babies. It seems like the monsters aren't actually evil here. They're brutal. They're vicious. But it looks like they have rules and that they don't want to impact the human world. So this werewolf is attacking a deer and not a human in the very beginning. So they're setting a precedent that the monsters they're just like another society of people, but they do require blood. So they do what they can to respect human laws and respect human life and to keep those worlds separate. I don't understand. It's not really clear if the humans fully know monsters exist, or that a whole society may exist, but there's definitely been sightings. So that's not really fully clear. God, I really love the scenes of the different layers and stuff that, but like LAIR, like layers that exist in this comic. So he tasks Black Lamb to go check it out, and he visits his friend. This is kind of a cool character. It's like this homeless like bard or minstrel that goes around, like watches everything. He always has this intel that Black Lamb's getting from him, but he always like kind of speaks back in song and rhyme and fun like little storyline element. So he visits his old friend, the werewolf dude, and basically like the night council, because everything looks like it's being pinned on this group of werewolves. Even the night council was like, we got to take them out, we can't have that. But Black Lamb's going to find out the truth. It's really cool. Sam Parsons' painting work in this is absolutely extraordinary. You can tell if you look really close. It's definitely hand painted, and it's just like seamlessly beautiful. It works really well with Tim Truman's style of art. My camera's not doing anything justice right now. Apologies to Sam Parsons, but totally love his work. So essentially, Black Lamb believes his buddy, and he's going to go find this dude Lycion to find out what's what. Lycion is one of the evil werewolves, and he's the leader of them. He's been alive for a very long time, but he has managed to make himself seem human-esque to fit in with human society, and has his own corporation. So he's trying to blend in and like rule human society through corporate power and greed. And so this is his like business tower that he stays in, and inside this is his lair, which is really cool. So he's obviously the one who's stealing all these babies, and he's trying to channel the power of all these babies to keep himself young, to keep himself immortal. But all of this has been kind of a ruse, apparently, as Black Lamb is like trying to infiltrate the tower, and is easily able to do so because he's an uber badass. That he expected Black Lamb to come, and it was all of this was some kind of a ruse or whatever, and things were set up to get him there, because he has plans for him. He needs Black Lamb for some kind of process or operation. Really fun. Kind of like wonder like what the heck is going on with all these tentacles, tendrils. So if you get into the next issue, this is all just part of this guy's lair. So fucking cool. This is his lair. This is like his mad scientist lair. It's like semi-organic, but mechanical. Just so much fun. Love it. We get glimpses of this cop guy again. Apparently, he can like smell monsters. So he's a side character that's getting featured a lot, and obviously will come into play later. He doesn't actually have any impact on this story, so I guess he's going to be coming in later. So Lycion traps Black Lamb and needs to use his blood to empower his immortality and see like fulfill his immortality forever, and to keep him looking human for some reason. It all makes sense. I don't know. But apparently he's making reference to Black Lamb and he being the old ones. Um, and so like they are like the true immortals, and I don't know what that means yet, but there's some kind of reference to that. So he needs the baby blood and Black Lamb to give himself a perpetually like immortally look human, instead of looking human for a little bit of time by having some baby's blood, and then it wanes and he starts looking wolfish again like he is now. This is what I love about the vampires in this world. I am sick of the romantic vampire, the sexy vampire. Thank you, Anne Rice, for what you did in the vampire community, but everybody's taken it too far. I want a vampire that is vicious, that is a fucking demon, uncontrollable, and Black Lamb is certainly that. He's got wings, claws, love it. So he tries to escape, he can't. Lycion puts him into an Iron Maiden. Really cool, nice sequence here, because he's going to drain his blood. So we get these like really great scenes of the spikes like moving in and cutting into him, but it's not like gratuitously showing everything, so it's really nice play on imagery and framing, I think. And then we get some more in the past. So Black Lamb, this is ancient Ireland, so long time ago. It doesn't say exactly when, but it's around the era of the Vikings, because eventually the Vikings come to attack. So he makes some kind of reference of the people who have the night strain. He has a family. His wife was human. His son ended up being human, but his daughter is like him, like night strain. So I guess they can intermarry. And he talks about his human father. Doesn't say anything about his mother. So maybe his mother was night strain. So it doesn't really fully explain everything, how it all works, how a night strain person is created, whether that night strain means that they're solely vampire, or if it's just like monster and then there's different types of night strain. But it's setting it all up. So eventually some Vikings attack. He fights in the war, but they get overtaken by the Vikings. Everybody gets killed except him and his daughter, and they get taken back to wherever the Vikings came from. I don't know exactly where, but they get taken back to, because they're weird, they're different, and they know that the Vikings, like shaman understands like these are like weird creatures of the night or demons or something. So they take them back to just torture them relentlessly, and they don't die. Uh, so they just keep torturing and torturing them to the point where the little girl is actually close to death and she just can't hang on anymore. And they've been suffering forever. Really great, God, scenario here. He really knows how the proper time to use a silhouette versus a close up versus like a profile. Just like his compositions are perfect. Really great use of the red here. But anyway, she finally just can't take anymore, and she's like, "Feed on me." And so there's something about, I guess, a night strain when they feed on one another. So one feeds on another, turns them into what Black Lamb is, why he's such an uber badass and way more monstrous and empowered than other people. So as drinking from his daughter, which does take her life, he had to take her life, and then he ended up taking out all the Vikings in a rage. Very tragic story. Through all that, after all the Vikings were destroyed, he met his buddy, werewolf. I can't remember the dude's name. So that guy's really old as well. So I don't know the difference between what's an old one, what's not, and how that is differentiated to regular night strain um, monsters. I don't know. More Sam Goody ads. So anyway, Lycaon thinks, okay, I've drained all the blood. I can use his blood. He's obviously dead. Really cool scene where he opens up the Iron Maiden here, like just fucking totally badass. Got a vampire with holes, just. So he's getting all cocky, but obviously Black Lamb's like, I'm not dead yet. And so he underestimated Black Lamb's ability to hang in there, I guess. So Black Lamb takes him by the throat as he does. His buddies, werewolf revolutionaries, come in and they're taking over the tower. And they take Lycaon away to mete out their monster justice to him for stealing all these human babies and trying to take out that wolf clan and murdering a bunch of them. And as the arbiter of justice for the night monsters, he, Black Lamb's like, do what you gotta do. And then this cop watches the tower blow up and is just watching everything happen from a distance. And we see Black Lamb taking off like a witch in the night. Really fun, cool stuff. Really love just how simple and basic that is, but how great. I love it. Timothy Truman, you're the best. So what's coming up next? They saved Walt Whitman's brain. What the fuck? I gotta read that right away. That sounds amazing. So yeah, Black Lamb number 2, number 3. Really, really loved these books. I love Black Lamb so far. I knew I would because I just adore anything Timothy Truman touches for sure. But most certainly, I mean, God, I could have a poster of this print or something. This is one of my most favorite covers. This has got to rank up there as one of my top favorites. Just absolutely love it. All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for more notifications or blah blah blah. You know the drill. Do all the stuff. You can buy my books. Hang in there. Everybody stay safe out there. Keep it psycho.